Hi everyone, welcome to The Brighter Side with Rosie. Today I'd like to demonstrate 4 recipes. We have a gnocchi recipe that is my go-to, along with 3 delicious sauces that you can create for your gnocchi. Starting with the actual gnocchi base recipe, I've got my potatoes that have been boiling for at least 15 minutes and I'm placing them through a ricer. I find the best textured gnocchi come from that ricer, the way that you process your potato. You kind of want to keep as much air incorporated in there as possible. Then I have my 2 types of flour. I like to use the semolina flour and a spelt flour, or you could just use white flour if you don't have that. And then you just want to gently clump it all together until it forms a ball, but you want to be mindful not to press too hard because you want to keep a lot of that air still incorporated. So if you were to cut it, you can see the texture there. It's a lot of little pockets of space. Gently roll them into logs, shape each end, and then using a bench scraper, cut off little pillows. I like to make mine in bulk and freeze them. And that way I have lots of gnocchi on the go throughout the week. Make sure that you use a lot of flour to dust them because they are kind of moist. Whatever flour you add onto your countertop, they will absorb it, so you just got to add a little extra. To freeze them, place them on some non-stick baking paper in one layer. Make sure that none of them are touching and then place them into your freezer overnight if you can, and then the next day separate them into their individual freezer bags for storing. The first type of sauce that we're going to be creating is a burnt butter and sage sauce. This is my partner's favorite, so we're starting off with this one. I have my garlic and I'm creating little shredded pieces of sage by rolling it up into a cigar with multiple leaves stacked on top of the other. Cut really thin slices off the edge and then separate them. We'll also be adding some Swiss mushrooms into this as well. I'm adding extra virgin olive oil into a saute pan and then my mushrooms with a generous pinch of salt. We want to draw out the liquid from the mushrooms. After a couple of minutes, they'll start to let go of all of their moisture, at which point you can then add in some vegetable stock in powder form. I feel like it gives it a little extra taste and dimension to the sauce. Just a splash of hot water and then mix it through to the mushrooms. Let it dry completely again and pop them to the side. We're going to be using the same saucepan with those flavors, just adding a little extra virgin olive oil, some vegan butter. I like to use Nuttelex, and we'll be using this as a base to saute our mushrooms and our shredded sage. Allow this to toast for a couple of minutes, and in the meantime we'll prepare our water for the gnocchi. This is just a whole bunch of Himalayan pink salt that I'm adding into some water, dropping in my frozen gnocchi and allowing them to sit there for about 5 minutes. As they start to float up to the surface, it means that they are ready and you can remove them from the pot with a slotted spoon. Make sure that most of the moisture is gone and then pop them into the same fry pan with your garlic and your sage. Saute them, toss them, and toast them. You want to make sure that the bottoms start to become golden brown, and then you can add in your mushrooms. Toss it all to combine and then add in some spinach right at the end. You'll want to make sure that your spinach has darkened and wilted, and once it has, you are ready to serve up your first dish of gnocchi made with burnt butter and sage style sauce. I allowed my partner to try this one and he was pretty impressed, and so was I. This was really, really delicious, and it comes together very quickly as well. For our next sauce, we're going to be creating a homemade tomato sauce. I have plenty of garlic and red onion, and I'm using my little chopping tool to chop it all together. I made heaps here in abundance because I was going to freeze it for future use. So I'll have the recipe amounts for 4 portions in the description box below, or a link to the recipe. These are fresh tomatoes that I'm just cubing. On goes some extra virgin olive oil and adding in the garlic, red onion and salt. Allow this to wilt Once your onion becomes translucent, we can create a little space in the middle and add in our tomatoes. Toss to combine and then reduce your tomatoes for a good 20 minutes, stirring in between. Just occasionally to make sure that nothing's burning. After a good 20 minutes to half an hour, your sauce should look a little something like this, and it is ready to use. But if you like, you can take an emulsion blender and just blend it up a little. Quick note though, if you do this, it cuts through the tomato seeds and you get a slightly bitter taste to your sauce. So be mindful of this if you do want that smooth texture. I'm then going to add my gnocchi straight into the sauce, chop up some basil between my fingers and toss it all together. This is probably the most classic way that you can eat your gnocchi, and it is very delicious. Can be made in bulk as well for meal prepping. It's very handy. You can spread over some vegan cheese. This is nutritional yeast that I'm using here. These are mighty delicious. On to our final recipe. This is going to be like a cream cheese style sauce, almost like a gorgonzola. I have my cashews that are sitting in some boiling hot water. Into a food processor or a high-speed blender, we're adding in plant-based milk, onion powder, garlic powder, salt, turmeric, nutritional yeast, and miso paste, red in particular. I find that just gives it a bit more depth of flavor and umami. You want to blend that all together on high speed for a good minute or so. If you want to, you can strain it in a milk bag before you add it into the pot, but I just went straight in. Keeping it on medium heat and stirring continuously. I am not leaving that spot in front of the counter because it will thicken quickly. Once it reaches this consistency, you can pop it into a container to store it away. It will continue to thicken as it sits, so just be mindful of that one. Toss in your little gnocchi pillows and then onto a plate to serve. Don't leave behind any of that delicious sauce in the pan. You can pop it over the top along with some salt and a cracked black pepper and basil if you like. And that is the final sauce recipe to complement our little gnocchi pillows. I hope you guys give these a go. Again, you can make them heaps ahead of time and freeze them for meal prep, which is awesome. And if you do recreate them, hashtag the brighter side with Rosie so I can check them out. Thank you guys so much again for tuning in. Feel free to subscribe and we'll catch you in the next recipe video.